to episode 2 of our series called the Digital CFO. Once again, I welcome back Simon Smithers to join us today. And today's topic will be technical debt. Welcome, Simon.
Thanks, James. Great to be here. So technical debt, what is it?
Well, it's not actually a term I came across myself until I actually moved from being a CFO and coming over to work in a tech company. It's used quite a lot, and it's actually a great term because it describes what a lot of companies carry when you have legacy systems that progressively get out of date because they can't keep up to date easily. And if you look at sort of the extreme examples where companies, and there are a lot of them out there still with 20-year-old ERP systems, typically what's happened over time is they've begun to customize them more and more and more, and the cost of actually getting that system to become, if you like, an agile modern system eventually just becomes huge. And all the while, really, what they're doing is building up this debt. And to look at it from a finance person's point of view, I think of technical debt as being two things really. I mean, one is you could argue it's this intangible cost that isn't actually on the balance sheet, but it's there, it's real. That there is a debt that the company is building up by using legacy, out-of-date software, which will eventually need to be replaced. But of course, you don't see that on the balance sheet. But another good example of this is, I guess to help people explain it, is if you were to build a factory and you present your business case to the board or to the CEO, and you said, well, here's the capex, I'm going to spend all this money, and you didn't have any cash flows for the maintenance of that going forward to keep the factory up to date, to do the repairs and maintenance, they're probably going to look at you and go, hold on a minute, what are you doing? Can't you do your job? Whereas with software, it seems that people often think, well, I'll put it in the system, and you kind of set and forget, not realizing that you've got to spend a lot of money maintaining it and have the resources behind it to keep it up to date. I don't know about in your experience, Simon. You've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of CFOs over the years. What's your tell me what the landscape's like.
Yeah, you're right, James. Many customers I speak to are still running effectively archaic solutions for their finance and operations. Some of which are 10, 15 years old. And I mean, you just have to think about, to your point, right, this technical debt, the customizations, modifications that they've done over those years that are now preventing them from moving forward. So I guess one of the things I hear from quite a number of different people I speak to is it does the job. I'm sure you've heard that too, and I'm sure you've got a perspective on that.
Yeah, that makes me. I have a wry smile when I hear that. I mean, of course, if you've implemented your system last year and it's an on-premise system, even if it's hosted in the cloud on-premise, you're not going to feel it too badly. But if even in today's age, you're talking about 15, 20-year-old systems, but the reality is, even if you've got a 5-year-old system, if it's not SaaS, you're building up a technical debt. And in this fast-changing world, you're probably not able to take advantage of advances in AI and blockchain and ML, all of which help you automate cost away, help you streamline the way things work, allow your team to focus on the more value-adding areas of work. And I think if you've got that mindset, it does the job. I really think as a CFO, you could be accused if that your firm position, you're just not simply doing your job. You've got to understand what technology is out there. You've got to understand how fast the world's moving. And at least if you do make that decision, you're making it from a position of real knowledge. And so that would certainly be anybody listening. I just really encourage you to understand what's out there with software as a service, because things have moved very, very quickly. I look at it like this as well. If you have two companies that, let's say A and B, and they've both got a 50% market share, and one's running on this 10-year-old ERP system, which hasn't been updated for years. They haven't been maintaining it. In fact, they switched off the support in a sort of misguided attempt to save money. And this other business has got software as a service. They're up to date with modern technology. Things have been automated away. I mean, first of all, you're going to see from their P&Ls that the second company I'm talking about should have a much lower administration cost. And it should be a more profitable company. But also, well, if you look at the balance sheets here, and this is sort of back to this technical debt idea, the fact is that the cost of repairing or bringing up to date the first business that has got on the legacy system, and that's just building up over the years, is going to be a bigger and bigger job for them to move to software as a service or to modernize their system. And as an investor, which company are you going to invest in? It's just a no-brainer. Of course, you're going to invest in the one that's got the modern technology. It's going to be in a much better position. It's going to be more agile. It's going to be able to pivot better. It's going to be able to compete better. Whereas the one that's on the legacy system is actually, at some point in time, like a frog boiling in water, is going to end up either sort of just dying and disappearing without even noticing what's happened. Sort of like your Kodak example, or indeed many other examples where they've just been disrupted and fallen asleep at the wheel. Or you're going to have a very expensive disruptive project to look at. It was incredible. I mean, I actually have come across a few examples now of companies actually making the decision today to implement on-premise, albeit hosted in the cloud, but it doesn't matter. It's still it's legacy software that is not able to deliver agile updates in a seamless manner on a regular basis, meaning that you're going to be always up to date in the same way that your iPhone at the press of a button can be kept up to date. And you are building up a debt on your balance sheet that has to be paid back at some point when you upgrade the software. And I think that's just a way of looking at technical debt from a sort of a CFO's perspective, which I hope resonates with those listening. But I think is an important point in myself encouraging finance professionals to really look at all the options out there, and particularly look at, because it's just, in my mind, absolutely critical, the software as a service options to run your business.
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation, James. So like I say to the customers I talk to, it does the job today, but will it do the job tomorrow? And unless you've got that foundation that is updating, keeping you going, then that debt is just going to be building.
I mean, just to add to it, Simon, I think it's probably one of those things that if you rewind the clock 10 or 20 years ago, that perhaps the room to maneuver and to say something like that was that much greater. I mean, the pace of change was slower. You probably could get away with not, and to be fair, all your competition were probably on, in the same boat, with an old legacy system that wasn't keeping up to date. The difference is now what we're seeing is that the companies that have kind of understood what's possible with modern technology, they're the ones that are advancing ahead and they're implementing it. So you're going to be left behind as a sort of a laggard or a Luddite business, which you're more than likely to get outcompeted, because probably that the fact you haven't got that software, plus you've probably got that mindset within the business that not to be investing in modern technology. I personally wouldn't want to be an investor in that type of business. I would want to be an investor in the business that's looking ahead, that's doing everything they can to keep ahead of the competition, and that includes your back office systems and the seamless integration that gives you to the front office systems if you're using a one platform. Ultimately, it all adds up to a better customer experience. And guess which company is going to grow fastest?
Yeah, agreed. So as you say, many customers are seeing this move to these new technologies as a competitive advantage, and that will be that differentiator when you compare A versus B.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And I think the other interesting thing that we haven't talked about so much, but is in the area of machine learning and AI, and again, this is something that's been developed extremely quickly. In fact, we're having a bit of fun earlier, just Zoom, which is a great example of software as a service. I remember using Zoom at the beginning of COVID, and they had the question marks around the security, but within a couple of weeks, the new version rolled out. Some security upgrades. You could lock people out of your room and what have you. And then just this morning, you're just noting how you could play with, you could give yourself a beard, or you could give yourself lipstick, and incredibly realistic, to the point where we were just playing with it, and you think, gosh, I hadn't even thought of that. But another example of how innovation's moving forward extremely quickly, and again, give Zoom a competitive advantage. And then we were talking about how it's only a matter of time before your eyes can be tracked back to the camera, so it doesn't look like you're kind of looking in the corner of your screen. It looks like it's much easier to have a conversation. And in fact, I'm talking to the camera. It's really quite an effort to talk to the camera, whereas naturally I want to look at you when I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I think another sort of example of how the consumer world, where we're using these AI features, is merging with the business world, and we see the same thing in the SaaS landscape too, with that consumer experience being utilized in the business world. That's been very useful for me, James. I'm sure it has for your audience also. Final thoughts to wrap us up?
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I think for this episode, we've covered technical debt. Hopefully everybody has a really good understanding of that. But for the next episode, and please do join us for it, we're going to be talking about emerging technology. You'll really be able to understand how moving to a SaaS platform allows you to take advantage of that. And we'll be back next week. Thank you.